For 1-all here at the Heroes Global Championship for North America, Simplicity is taking on SpaceStation Gaming, hoping for their first victory of 2018. 1-1, Simplicity looked great game one, came in, said, fine, we're gonna go to Cursed Hollow. We're gonna play basically the same thing we did yesterday versus Gale Force. We gotta win with that. Maybe we'll get a 2-0, and SpaceStation said, no.
We're just gonna
7-minute win.
7 minutes is good enough for them. And compositionally wise, again, I think that it's just a matter of them recognizing, hey, that's the draft path.
Yeah.
So we've got a trick up our sleeve. Sometimes you'll see teams kind of sit on stuff like that for the right moment. I think that was the perfect moment, and that's why we've got a 1-1.
That was the moment. And now looking forward, Simplicity, of course, has the choice of first pick or battleground choice. Seems like it's been first pick as a favorite. I think that seems very normal for these teams at this juncture that we're in for HGC very early on. Not until they have more of an idea of what battlegrounds everyone is favoring, then maybe starting to switch things around strategically and going for the second pick. But in general, it seems like first pick is always the starting point when you start out these new phases or parts.
How many teams do you think right now are looking at their schedule ahead? They're like, all right, what week do we play Space Station? All right, that week in scrims we'll probably be practicing Volskaya. It's like, yeah, we got to figure out something. I'm sure everybody's practicing it, but sometimes you prioritize others, and then you ban ones that you just don't play it. That seems to be a lot of the norm. But Volskaya, obviously, showing up twice now for Space Station. You know, I mean, it's 1-1 so far.
Well, let's see. They ended up picking Dragon after Volskaya yesterday versus LFM. Let's see if they're going to do it here, given that Simplicity takes first pick. They do, but it's not Dragonshire, at least not yet. SpaceStation will choose Sky Temple. That was played earlier on in the series versus LFM. It was the first game, and LFM got the victory there, but SpaceStation looked good up until the point that they started losing fights.
Yeah, they had the Hanzo. I believe that was the 2-year-old game as well, and the Hanzo is shredding through things, and the minute LFM's like, look, we're finally on an even talent here. We got to take a fight. They did. And then when it came late game, they're like, we have to take a team fight. And they did, and that's how they won. So it was more of a credit to LFM to be able to keep themselves in that game and to come back. But for what it's worth, SpaceStation actually looked really good in that game. Could have been a 3-0 series yesterday. We'll see if they can replicate some of the same success that they had yesterday.
Yeah, they had a good draft to be able to get ahead in structures, thanks to the temples. They seem to have on lock the new objective timers, and especially the new camp timers as a result of the objective happening later on. SpaceStation, will they go back to Tyrael Greymane, though? The Tyrael Greymane with the Hanzo that they had before. Tyrael Greymane has not worked for them so far. On that game, they were ahead. It was more of the standard with Sanctification. Now we've seen the Judgment strategies too. Or do we see more of the ETC focus, if they can even get it?
And the way that this is set up, because they had map ban, it means that first pick will be over to the side of on Simplicity. So you have to imagine, as strong as ETC has been, that they'll probably ban ETC for fear of giving it up to Simplicity.
Well, in that case, Simplicity having the first pick, if Genji is just as high priority for Simplicity as it was for SpaceStation, which you would think it would be for just about every team the way the bans are going through, maybe they can manipulate things in a way so that they force either being able to get ETC or Genji.
A lot of high priority heroes.
There are.
So it's the meta. Obviously, we have a top tier, but remember, Simplicity on this map yesterday also picked Jaina. We talked about 5 games of involvement, 4 picks yesterday between these teams, 1 ban against them. 5 out of 9 games that they played, there was an involvement of Jaina in the draft. We haven't seen it in the first 2 games yet. Maybe it's on the radar for some of these teams once we get past those high priority picks.
I feel like the last draft was also really interesting for Simplicity and something that people are going to be looking at, because they had the opportunity to take Lucio and they didn't. They gave over both Lucio and Genji, which are 2 of those high priority picks for what we would assume to be every team.
Lucio, Genji, Hanzo. What game is that from?
They're just characters. Heroes of the Storm.
Oh, that's right. They're from Heroes of the Storm. That's right.
I've
We're
heard of
all
that
here
game.
in one natural environment where we got to see Uther on Volskaya, and nothing's normal in the Nexus.
Especially the draft from last game.
Lost Vikings.
It was cool. Jason, my first hero I remember him playing was all the way back on Team Blaze. Good old Team Blaze, way back in the day, 2015. And he was playing Abathur. He played a lot of Abathur, and then they played Abathur Rexar, and they would clone the Rexar. There were bears everywhere. It was fantastic.
Do you remember when they would run the Sanctification with the Lightning Breath?
Yes.
They would run Tyrael, Diablo,
Yeah.
put down Sanctification, and Diablo would just standing there. I remember Infernal Shrines, they love to do that on.
Right,
They
because
would
Holy Arena with the damage increase.
just like, here we go, and it would just go out and just torch people.
It was used just for that, just for the level 20 damage increase, right? And yeah, you get the other stuff from it, I guess, the benefits from that. That was old Sanctification, too.
Yeah, it was a good time back then. But speaking of Blaze, we're on the Blaze patch. Gilly, next week, there's a hero coming out with that name specifically named Blaze.
Yeah, there is a guide on our website, playheroes.com/esports. Fury talking about Blaze. You can go check that out. Fury seemed pretty excited about him. How excited are you about Blaze?
I want to see where he falls in the meta. I mean, he has a decent amount of wave clear, but if you look at his kit, he has a charge AoE stun, depending on how he lands it. He has a slow, he has good AoE damage. He'll probably maybe fall into that offlaner, but I think there's a lot of flexibility with him in our meta.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. I, of course, am always pumped to see more StarCraft heroes in Heroes of the Storm, so that's going to be great. Give me Celindus someday, maybe devs. I would love you guys forever. But yeah, Blaze is going to be awesome. Have you gotten to play him very much?
No, I apparently moved to California recently. My computer is still actually in transit.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to move into my place. You know, a few distractions along the way, taking notes.
That's right. That's what this week is for, to get pumped and amped about Blaze so that we can see him next week. Game 3, Sky Temple, Lucio ban from Simplicity.
I sat in on a lot of scrims. It's like you're watching people play. You're like, man, I really wish I could be clicking buttons right now, but you know, you got to stay committed. It's fun. You know, you get a lot of insight. The meta coming out. Looking forward to Blaze next week. We'll see where he falls. But Lucio banned out against SpaceStation. ETC potentially being let through as we see a Genji hover.
That's the million-dollar question. And SpaceStation commits. Is there anything else? Just not even a second.
Look, I made this comment on my stream before. I'm like, look, if you're in a draft mode and you feel so confident on a hero, you snap lock that hero and you make a statement. Like, dude, I'm coming for you. And you just snap lock, you're clicking ready. As soon as it goes through, it's perfect. They did that.
Love that. King Caffeine is coming at you, SpaceStation. Angry over that last loss. Maybe even feeling like it was a pretty cheesy win from SpaceStation. And I remember clear back Cloud9 days with King Caffeine K1 Pro really not being fans of anything they felt was cheese. So I don't think that that's gone anywhere.
If you're looking to punish somebody, it's ETC is one of the most punishing heroes if you get everything going. We see on the other side, Dahaka does give that global over to SpaceStation. Of course, Jason probably flexed back to that direction. And then Casanova, Greymane, could be the Shrite pick. But we saw yesterday when they were able to have enough counters to Mosh Pit that it forced the stage dive. And they had a lot of good answers, or good answers against them as well. So maybe they picked up a few tips along the way. Having that cursed bullet ready the minute the ETC lands, that happened against them yesterday against LFM. Picked up a few tips. Sure, some strategies will come from that.
Yeah, we'll see if SpaceStation gets the Stukov to go along with that as a way of stopping, or if Simplicity will get him. Has been a Simplicity favorite, it seems, for supports, although they are, again, very flexible. Arthas and Hanzo nabbed by Simplicity. Another Hanzo, another Sky Temple game, another Hanzo.
So this, to me, opens the door for a Jaina pick. Hanzo can kind of be that consistent damage. ETC gives you the lockdown. Arthas gives you slows to make you really be able to land skill shots on that side. We saw the flexibility between Posty and Zuna on that back side. They're taking away one of the best combos to follow up on the ETC power slide with Li Ming. But it does leave open Jaina. Will SpaceStation potentially pick that up, knowing that Simplicity might be looking for that burst damage behind that double warrior setup?
Yeah, both teams have played Jaina yesterday. They did. On this map, it was Simplicity who chose to play, and it was with the Hanzo. I'm pretty sure. Yes, it was with the Hanzo, and then a late Brightwing. But that felt like it was through a semi-support choke.
The scary part for me is if SpaceStation prioritizes their support here and ends up being something like a Malfurion, which they played a couple of times yesterday.
Yeah.
that burst damage now for Simplicity would be an excellent part to add to their draft. So SpaceStation, I think, unless they want to go something neutral or sit on that pick and maybe flex that into the last part, could be something they play around in terms of draft, unless they're just really confident in that front line and what they go, maybe sit on an Anubarak pick or something like that. If they see a mage come out, go into Anubarak on that side. So there's some counterplays to be made here in draft with these 2 picks for SpaceStation.
I wonder if that Li Ming was even sort of hinting that SpaceStation wanted to go into the Anubarak route.
Cocoon, yeah.
Yeah, Cocoon. And if that's the case, getting a Anubarak Stukov seems to be the Simplicity favorite support, and having that comboed with the lockdown that Arthas already provides, and then the lockdown from ETC2 could be a really strong pairing from that. Simplicity went into Brightwing as a counter, a reset from a fight from a Malthael that Gale Force had, but it didn't work out for them. It seemed like the Brightwing was under a lot of heavy fire. It didn't really seem like it was maybe as much a K1 Pro hero like the Stukov that they've had to. So at that point, maybe SpaceStation can kind of abuse that and take that away.
Spending a lot of time thinking. They've got a few seconds before they have to lock these picks in. They get the Jaina for themselves. We're also going to see Tomster's first attempt at Alexstrasza here in our competitive play. Also denying that from Simplicity. So, as you said, does that open the door for Stukov now when we think about K1 Pro and getting onto those points? Being able to lock somebody down the front line after you power slide, making sure that they can't get out, having that follow-up CC, it's pretty terrifying.
Looking at boss control, there's some knockback from Alexstrasza. You can drag people away with Dahaka. And then if people pile on the point, obviously Greymane Cocktails and Jaina are going to do a lot of damage to that. ETC as a knockback too.
Who's going to be our setup for SpaceStation? They've still got to have the main initiator for Jaina to really combo off of. Equinox did have a lot of Meridian games. Obviously, we're still on the side of Simplicity. We need a support. We need potentially a second range damage dealer. With Jaina being taken away and Li Ming banned out,
Tychus.
you land on Tychus.
Tychus Stukov.
I can dig it.
Now Tychus does, if SpaceStation wanted the Anubarak, Tychus is going to dissuade enough that we'll go to Johanna instead.
I think that Johanna is a perfect pickup. Alexstrasza does have the knockback in her dragon form. That can help. But outside of that, they had no other interrupts. Johanna is one of those ones that if you see the power slide coming in, you know you're about to be hit, you hit your condemn, it will still go off despite the fact that you get stunned. And that way, if he does slide and then try and get that mosh pit in, if that's a thing, it gives you the interrupt because it has the mini stun on it. Plus you have Iron Skin. If you see it coming in and that's available, you can go that. So we might even see at level 1, the cooldown reduction on the Iron Skin. So that's available more often to deal with the Arthas and the ETC. That's mega crowd control between slows and stuns.
Yeah, Johanna is going to have her work cut out for her if she steps too far forward. So that control, being able to have hold your ground for the cooldown reduction on Iron Skin and the increased bit of shielding too to help out with the lots of damage that Simplicity can deal between Hanzo and Tychus. You know, there's a possibility for like a Giant Slayer for Hanzo. Obviously there's minigun too, but blinds will help with that too.
The one thing that I almost would like to see is K1 be the initiator in the sense that if he puts down the Lurking Arm with the silence, Johanna can't all of a sudden get that Iron Skin, can't get that Condemn. We might see a little bit of a slight initiation from Stukov before you get the big CC. This is going to be an interesting setup here.
Put the damage on at least, try to force out an Iron Skin early, and then they can lock her down from there. Let's see how it works out for Simplicity and SpaceStation in Game 3 as we head into Sky Temple.
Let's go. Let's go. Jaina. We actually saw a mix-up in a build yesterday from Hosty.
Look at that Skinergy. It's so beautiful.
Tomster?
Yes.
Looks good.
Wow.
Wait, why did we switch sides?
Simplicity setting up. Suna, you gotta get into position.
Oh, that's right. We gotta.
Pre-game ritual is very important.
Gilly, we're seeing another switch up again in the Jaina build. Not going into that globe talent that we saw most of the day yesterday. We saw it switched up, I think, by Hosty yesterday on Simplicity. I believe went into the extra slow, the duration.
Yeah, it was I almost thought it was SpaceStation who did it
Was
in
it?
the last Jaina game that we had. But I can't be for sure, but it was this build. Or at
Actually,
least
yeah,
enough
because I
this way.
called it the Shrite
The
build.
Shrite build.
Yeah,
And is this Shrite playing her again?
it is.
Yes.
So
There you
bring
go.
a little LatAm flavor here to the Jaina builds in North America.
A lot of possible wave clear. It is Dahaka and Jaina who are rotating together with the Johanna. Not something you see every day from the rotation there, but in this instance, being able to push in quite heavily the waves. Simplicity just has to try to deal with them without taking too much damage to the towers.
And with Hanzo there in the middle, he doesn't have a lot to bounce his scatter arrow off of.
Right.
Plus, he doesn't, he really comes online with that at level 4. So I like the early aggression. Now it's allowing them to control the rotations, control that advantage. And, we've seen a lot of teams, Gilly, so far, as you had mentioned in the lead up to this game in Sky Temple, is the camp prioritization. And what we saw yesterday from these teams was both of them grabbed their siege camps early.
Exactly, and then bruisers.
Yeah, now we're seeing a little bit of a switch up, maybe a different way of approaching it.
This is so cool. SpaceStation had that hard rotation between mid-bot with the wave clear that they have, brought down more of Simplicity down. Simplicity already being there, went for the Giants, and SpaceStation already rotates up, gets their bruisers, and allows them to put a lot of damage down on these towers in the top in preparation for the first phase. Really cool setup laning-wise for SpaceStation, taking advantage of that wave clear that they have.
They're maximizing this, Gilly. Getting that entire wall 2 minutes in. The bottom, was cleared up. I mean, every point that you just made was all in their advantage. And if, they turn their eyes towards that top temple, they can look at an early fort being taken down, try and get that experience advantage.
Now this is the build from Alex Straza that I saw a lot more at Gold Club World Championship. Not so much the K1 Pro build. It is, of course, reliant now on Tomster to make sure that he is staying at 75% and higher of the, you need to be above 75% health to get the cooldown reduction, and then at 7, making sure that the life blossoms that drop off of the heal are in place so that he can get those and not be sacrificing health in the process of continuing to have those constant Qs.
Good use of the Iron Skin. And there was the zoning from the Lurking Arm from K1 Pro. Obviously, there was another out there for Equinox to get out, but that is what they're going to have to essentially try and replicate multiple times as this goes on, is using that Lurking Arm, denying the step back, and right now, Equinox being punished.
He has taken some damage. He's going to hope to move on to the point. Tomster has the heals there to keep him tanky on the point. Simplicity preferring to, at least for now, try to challenge SpaceStation on this top temple. They've already taken a lot of structural damage, and in just giving the temple for free and trading out, getting the mid, they lose the fort, and there's a big experience gain that comes from that.
Well, they're bringing Jason in with the Dahaka, using that brush knocker. The slow from Tomster is keeping Caffeine, but no follow-up, not able to get the tongue. But now they turn their attention back towards the channel. Jaina ended up going, clearing mid, and now is going to try and double lane rotate with that Blizzard, which is tremendous wave clear there.
Jaina versus Arthas and Lame seems fitting, at least from a point of lore from that, but
because they're both
will
cold.
want to be careful. Yeah, aren't they bitter enemies? I will admit, I don't really know my Warcraft lore that well, but I do know that Heroes of the Storm is still happening right now, and a fort has fallen, the first fort of the game.
First fort goes down. Slight experience lead for SpaceStation. Jaina starting to rotate back up, but the last of the shots will be channeled here by Simplicity. But that fort, Gilly, in the top did eventually go down. And with the structures that they've gotten down, they're now inching a little bit out ahead of Simplicity. So maybe we'll see a play around 10. When you're getting closer to 10, they might look to be aggressive. Shrite's got Zuna in his sights right now, though.
And he does. Dahaka's coming in too. Jason's going to look for that drag to pull in. Zuna catches him, brings him right back into the cold, or out in the cold, in the Blizzard. Takes him out. First blood from SpaceStation.
Hey, listen, I came here from Florida. And
it's not that cold
California,
here, Jay Howe.
It was pretty chilly today, so I feel like I know how Zuna felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fun to be dragged right into a blizzard.
Southern California, so cold.
It's like 65 degrees. This is quite a lead that SpaceStation is amassing, and it feels like it goes all the way back to the very beginning, understanding their composition and the weaknesses of Simplicity, especially the laning setup, that abusing how Simplicity is set up and having that lead somewhere. So it puts Simplicity back into a point similar to where they were at versus Gale Force Esports in a lot of the games of the series, where they're going to have to find a place where they have an even team fight and take it decisively.
Everything that SpaceStation has done from the minute they started this game, Gilly, has been precise and with meaning, and they've controlled the rotations the entire game. We are 6 minutes in, and everything that they've done has been flawless. They're up 1 kills to 0, but it hasn't been about that. It's about the execution and how they've approached this map. I'm really impressed so far. However, level 10 is going to be here for Simplicity momentarily. We have our next temple active in 20 seconds. Things could look a lot different in the matter of a minute in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, even looking at SpaceStation's game versus LFM Esports yesterday on Sky, SpaceStation was in the lead, and then LFM got the right fight, and from there, never let go. So SpaceStation needs to keep these rotations up, these perfect rotations, make sure that they're still maintaining the structural advantage, which is oh so important on Sky Temple. Heroic abilities picked up by Simplicity, still a question mark for Arthas, but stage dive over the mosh pit.
Yeah, I think, that makes sense. Alex Straza back there, everything that we talked about before with Johanna, it's hard to execute, so go with something that gives you that extra, or that gives you that global to match, but also has playmaking potential. As you can see on the mini-map, they're up there on the top. Iron Skin is out for Johanna. They've got a target, though, Gilly.
They do, and that target is Zuna, who goes into the Commandeer Odin. Jason was low enough that he had to back off while he got the self-heal. Jay Shrita now in danger, moving over to get into the Abundance, but that is how long it takes, the 3 seconds, even with Tomster trying to do the damage and to set up the bigger area with the Dragon Queen version of it. Gonna go down. Simplicity takes out and gets their first kill on Jaina. I was wondering if maybe Summon Syndragosa was at least being questioned because Jaina and the area damage that she does with Blizzard, but still got Army of the Dead in the end. It looks like it worked out for Simplicity.
They're gonna be able to reapproach this. Arthas is now showing on the mini-map, dealing with that camp that was picked up prior to them. And here we go.
Cleansing Flame. Going to soften up a lot of those targets from Simplicity. Equinox looking for a chase, would have Blessed Shield in a few seconds, but with Flailing Swipe, content just to take that and push off Simplicity for the last few shots at this temple.
Give credit to Simplicity, Gilly. They understood their potential to come back into this game using that stage dive. They were able to get that. They're taking control of their shrine, or excuse me, of their siege giants. Everything that they've done has gotten them back into this game. They're still a little bit behind structure-wise, obviously, but in terms of being able to approach the temples going forward, they're still very much in it.
That they are. Having all of those structures is such a benefit for SpaceStation, but Simplicity, if they can take down some of those forts that are low in the mid and the bottom, that'll get them a nice boost back into the game too. And really just from being able to do what they've done and keep up a good lane soak, they're not far behind at all. Dragon Arrow, but a perfect Iron Scan in the nick of time.
That looked good. That looked real good. For Equinox anyways.
Yeah, it hurts to use Dragon's Arrow and then have it stopped by your trait, but worked out for Equinox.
Not too shabby. Vision control here for Simplicity, as they've also got a camp pushing top. Will we see the commitment in the top? When we look at the side of SpaceStation, Greymane has really good race potential if they do want to try and sneak a boss in. Jaina has that burst damage in. However, when the real damage is, it's on the side of Simplicity with Hanzo. They could potentially make a late game boss call. As you mentioned in the draft, also have that lurking arm, which could zone out. A lot of playmaking potential if it comes to that.
Yeah, even just the siege from Tychus is pretty scary once he's in the Odin. Now, Odin had to be used defensively for Zuna in the last fight, but it paid off to have that. He was able to make it in and not get burst down before the Odin could get in, and some heals started coming out too, giving him the armor from that. There's an amount of time that takes to get into the Odin, and that can come back to haunt you in fights. We'll see if Zuna continues to use it, if he gets a gank from that, or if we see him try to use it earlier at the beginning of the fight.
This is the part that I love about Sky Temple, Gilly. When it's top and bottom temples and there's a boss available, oh my goodness! Goodbye, Johanna!
Stage dive, and I think it's going to be goodbye to a lot more than that. Tomster falls, 2 quick kills for Simplicity. We told them, you're behind in rotations, you're behind in structures, you're going to have to win a fight. looks like they took the advice from that, or, you know, just did what they're very good at doing.
They're very good at that.
They are. They really are.
I was just about to make the point of top, bottom, temple when a boss is available. You can't necessarily go to the top. You can use your global to go up there, but you have to stay around the boss. Equinox stayed a little bit too far and got annihilated there.
Talking about top, though, SpaceStation have sent their 2 damage dealers, and with the temple in the top, done a lot more damage. There's still shots left on this temple that are firing rapidly at that keep in the top lane. SpaceStation makes a great, fast call to stay in this game.
Yeah, by doing that, because the temple prioritizes the closest lane, getting a little bit of damage into the keep and pushing those minions in, warranted themselves. They keep a great play there, Gilly. Credit SpaceStation here, but we got the cleansing out again. K1 Pro in trouble.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to survive off of that being dragged in. You've got the J Shrit to damage.
Oh my.
And you've got the dragon. Speaking of the dragon.
Oh, Topster, please.
Hello, my friends.
I was scared for him there for a second.
Nobody wants to mess with a dragon. Okay, 16 available for both of the teams as the final temple shots conclude. Man, that rotation, that call was a thing of beauty from SpaceStation. To go up to the top, use the strong damage dealers of Jaina, and especially when he gets in that Worgen form, the 40% extra attack damage of Greymane, take down the towers so that you can guarantee get a keep off of that temple. Even though Simplicity won that fight, they prioritized the boss, they prioritized the bottom temple, they did what they could with the boss, but there was still a fort up. So a lot of those shots were wasted just taking out the fort.
No matter what, the later we get here, now that that bottom lane is opened up, Simplicity takes a late game team fight, level 18, level 19, potentially if we get to 20. You can get a 4 or 5 man wipe. You now have a win condition. So while things are in favor of SpaceStation with that keep going down, Simplicity, as we've seen them before, Gilly, have been down, but they're never fully out. And that's where we find them. And believe it or not, they actually have a slight experience advantage, almost negligible at this point. But they are very much in this game in some respect, just down a little bit.
Yeah, they've been doing well with that stage dive ETC, making sure that they keep up with the soak, really utilizing that global to its full potential. There's something to be said about the momentum of having the teamfight victories. Even though they've lost the keep, Simplicity did have that pretty dominant teamfight win. So it's good for SpaceStation that they were able to get the last few picks that they did get in the bottom lane to make sure that they were equalizing that out and not feeling the same kind of pressure that they were versus LFM after losing the boss in pretty much the same way around the same time in the game.
Single temple right now, Gilly. We'll see who's going to take advantage of this. Camp cleared up. No fort on either side. However, SpaceStation does have a well here, depending on how hard or how soft the aggression is. They could always fall back and tap well, but I got a feeling... Oh, actually, I'm sorry. We've got double temple phase.
Annoying for Simplicity that one of those isn't in the bottom lane. Just a bullet goes out. Airho is in a lot of danger here, hoping that he can heal back up, uses Icebound Fortitude, now pops the ghouls and got the silence to move in. He's blown up before he can get the heal off the ghouls at all.
Shrite started that and he finished that.
Yes,
he is making plays. Despite him in the interview yesterday saying he's just trying to play well and win, dude is making plays.
Right over the wall, takes down his arch nemesis Arthas. If it's not, then I'm saying that's what it is anyway. Now Equinox, though, on the other side of all of Simplicity, hoping that he can just buy time until the rest can bring down multiple members of Simplicity. That's very well done by Equinox. He's still being chased by Hanzo. Finally goes down, but Jason's going to drag ETC back into the fight, and SpaceStation are on the chase.
Clutch tongue there, grabs onto him. 2-for-1 trade so far. However, Arthas, that fight has gone on so long that Arthas has almost respawned. Jason and team moving forward onto the middle temple. They're going to take the shots. They're now forcing towards the mid keep. Things looking good for SpaceStation, but they are not that... I mean, they're in a good spot, Gilly, but it is nowhere near a guarantee yet that this game is even close to over.
Yeah, Simplicity had to back off because they were facing a 3v4 fight with all of their tanks being gone. Arthas just respawning in the back. Now they're going to have Arthas, but the final few shots in the mid have been fired. This drag hits again. Dragon Arrow may save K1 Pro. No, the Numbing Blast route doesn't allow Stukov to escape, and the stagger deaths have begun for Simplicity.
Chase Shrite Jay Shrite, and oh, by the way, Gilly, more Jay Shrite. Dude is lighting it up. I mean, obviously he's being supported. It's a good team effort, but he is landing the shots when they matter, confirming these kills and giving his team a late game lead, as I believe this mid keep should fall, and they're going to look to do more.
Simplicity nearly were able to go up and contest that top temple, which Dahaka has stepped off of now. Trying to limit.
Iron Skin was just used there.
He's going to come in, trying to limit the vision at the time. Simplicity want to duke it out for this. They do not have Stukov. There's no Stukov at this point. They do have the 2 warriors on the capture point of the boss. Dahaka does go down. Simplicity hanging in. They take out Jaina too. The flanking Odin ripping through SpaceStation Gaming as 1 by 1. They all fall down. Simplicity, how did they do this?
I am just blown away at what just happened. What seemed like you could pretty much choke the enemy team out turned into a call, and Simplicity understands, like, well, we're going to have to fight on this boss. That is one of the few win conditions that you can give your team at that moment. Iron Skin was used early. They tried to get the dragon to drop the bombs. You get the heal and the damage, but they were so split, and Zuna just came in on that backside and absolutely wrecked SpaceStation. Gilly, that is an amazing turnaround there.
They were 4v5 without their support. I don't know what else to say. Simplicity, that was insane what they just did. They took that boss, they'll take the game.
I mean, there were enough shots on the top temple. It was easily taking the keep. It would have done damage to the bottom keep. And I really feel like at that point, you don't have to force that.
Yeah.
If it's 5 versus 3, 100% you take that to victory. 5 versus 4, you look at the other team, you're like, they don't have a support. But the other team is like, we don't have a support. There's a boss there. If we give up that boss, it's probably game, or they're going to get the temple shots and the boss, and we have to do something. Jason got caught out early, took a ton of damage at the very beginning of that. Iron Skin was used, I think, to defend against the boss, and things just unraveled very quickly for SpaceStation in those last few moments on that boss fight.
I just don't think they thought at all there was any way that Simplicity would ever contest them without their support there. And Simplicity did. Surprised them enough. They got the win. You know we got to take another look at that fight. You know we got to watch that boss. Jayad, break it down.
Yeah, I mean, Jason is there, and he just is going to get shredded by the boss in Hanzo. And you can see just peppering. Tomster goes up. He's able to bring it down, but Zuna on that backside, Gilly, is just insane.
Yeah, he is just taking him down 1 by 1, did a lot of damage to Shrita, forced a lot of SpaceStation on that side to have to run and flank back too, kiting all the way back. They take down the damage dealer in Jaina, and then Casanova has just been peppered with shots from that Tychus, even keeping him alive, the Dragon's Arrow at the end, just to seal the deal for the wipe. That was an awesome play.